We have 1 hour to turn someone's life around. What's your play-by-play?
It's funny, a little anti-podcast plug, like stop listening to so many podcasts and get out there and do it. Um, I think there's so much information out there today. Where I see people fail is they don't apply it. They take in all this information. There's so many great resources out there, whether it's a podcast like yours or others or YouTube, and they just suck it all in, and then they don't apply it. And it's like they go to the next one and then, well, I'll do that next, or I'll do that next. And so I'm pretty ruthless about execution. If I have an idea, it's like go. And so I think momentum has started with like, you were telling me a little bit about your story, like just get it done, just go. So if you're listening, whatever you want to do, just go.
And I think a lot of times what happens is there are people who are afraid to get into like chaotic moments to change, but comfort can also be challenging. Like in your experience, what do you think is more dangerous, being comfortable or living a life full of chaos?
Yeah. I mean, there's like guess there's this like balancing beam, where chaos is toxic and negative, and I've been there, it can be really bad for people around you, for you. But if you're just working hard and juggling a lot of balls and you're super dedicated, then I think that kind of chaos can be positive. The you know, comfort kills. I mean, it kind of applies, man. Even in evolution, if you look at evolution, if you look at animals, they evolve through having to, survive in a desert. Maybe they lived in a rainforest before, maybe they needed to be a land predator, but now they have to swim in the water more. And so they adapt these skills. And so the transition of change, it is actually the exit of comfort. I don't think any of those animals that evolved like wanted to do that. Oh, I want to swim the ocean and learn how to catch fish. And I've been hunting on land my whole life. So I think forcing yourself to do stuff that's uncomfortable is just kind of a proven thing now. And I'm not sure it's up for debate.
Right. And you've become ultra successful personally and professionally and started with nothing. And I think a lot of times people, they have a hard time building momentum and believing in themselves, even like especially when it doesn't even make sense to. Like, how did you continue to believe in yourself and your mission and your journey, early days of Under Armour and building what you were building, even though you couldn't see like light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you go back and look at like this great group of people that we started Under Armour with, I bet you a lot of people would be like, man, Kip had a big ego. Or maybe, Kevin, my partner, like maybe he's got a big ego. And so I think there's like a healthy need to have like an ego. Like you want to go achieve things, you want to improve things, you want to validate your good, and then there's the negative side of the ego, which is you treat people poorly, you look down upon people, you think you're better than people. And so I think those early days, yeah, I bet you people would probably describe us as cocky, as arrogant, yeah, in ego. And so if you pull that back, then those are motivators. Like you want to prove yourself. So, yeah, it's really hard to just tell people like, believe in yourself. But at the end of the day, like you almost have to not care what other people, it's probably less about believing in yourself, because I didn't always believe in myself. It's probably just, I didn't care what other people thought of me. If you're worried that like you're going to be judged, then most likely you're not going to do something out of fear. And so I think fear-based decision-making is like kind of behind the curtain on a lot of these things.
Yeah, and I think the only way to really build true confidence is to like take action, like we said at the beginning, and have like what you're doing like aligned with, what you're like, how you believe about where you're going in your life and showing up for yourself. Like, given that, like, what are a few like staple habits that you think every single person should do every single day if they're trying to become more resilient, build grit, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many great resources out there. For me, for me, it's like these little nuances that if you like skip the little things, at the beginning of the day. It just seems to unravel the day, the week, the month. And so having the kind of discipline to get up, work out, I'm a big cold bath guy. I just bought a new one. I've never had an actual cold bath unit. I just threw ice in. That just is like a reminder, like jumping in that thing in the morning is just like, okay, what's going to suck today? Well, I'm going to attack it anyway. Maybe it's supplements, maybe it's just getting your kids up early, whatever it is. I think it starts off super early and super small. And I think sometimes people try to bite too much of the cake at one time. And they're like, oh man, this week I'm going to land the biggest deal of my life. And I'm like, okay, cool. There might be weeks like that. But like, what are the little things that are like just non-negotiable? And they tend to add up. So, there's some people I hate to like preach to people because like, I don't think there's a recipe. I think you can game your mind to have any system you want. You just got to believe in the system and apply it. And you can't hopscotch around, change today, well, I'll do that tomorrow. Whatever system you think can build your grit, determination, your tenacity, like give it a year, give it 6 months. Don't change. I think I see people jump ship, whatever your process is, just like commit.
And I think that when it comes to like transformation and changing people's lives, I mean, I think self-reflection is really important. I know you've had a lot of self-reflection over the years. I saw you made a few posts on social media about it. Like, what did you think being ultra successful would fix for you that actually didn't?
I didn't fix anything. Nothing. Zero and zilch. Nothing. Oh, people want to go to the money first. They always jump on the money. Well, you have money now, or you were been successful. It's relative to your bank account, and that gives you opportunities. And I think there's a healthy debate that money definitely gives you opportunities. But I think how you treat people and how you show up really doesn't matter what kind of money you got. And I think at my lowest time, I treated people poorly. At my highest time, I treat people well. And so what does success really mean if you treat people poorly? So, I mean, it's kind of a simple way to look at it, and I see a lot of people, I really struggle with the concept of greed, is because it drives so much of today's society. But when they grab it or they get a hold of it or they make a shitload of money or they have a bunch of power, then they start treating people poorly. It's like this weird balancing act. It's like, so I don't know if that make any sense. You're probably rolling your eyes at me.
Well, no, I think that's just hitting on the point, my next point, which is like, I just think that success feels so empty at times. And I think especially when you're on the grind, like why do you think personally that so many people who are successful still feel like lost in life?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, but trying to self-reflect, like you said, on myself is just probably something we grew up with. Probably some care and nurture along the way when we were kids kind of programmed us. I really believe people are a product of environments, and that can be when you're young or that could be when you're older. I have this weird saying is like you dip a rag in gasoline and you set it on the front porch for a week. You go back and smell that rag. It smells like gasoline. You go back in a month and smell that rag. It smells like gasoline. And so you are your environment, and it's hard to get things out once you've allowed them in, like the gasoline. I mean, you might go back a year later and grab that rag and take a big huff and be like, I can still smell it. You only dipped it in the gasoline for a second, but it lasted for a long time. So that environment, that culture, that people you surround yourself with, the things you work on, the nature you decide to go in or not go in, I think you're a product of your environment. So I think some of that early programming in childhood probably messed us all up. At the end of the day, though, you kind of be like, wow, it made you who you are. So that's pretty cool too.
And I think part of success and building something meaningful in the grind is sacrifice. People sacrifice family life, they sacrifice their relationships, they sacrifice their mental health, their well-being. Like, was it all worth it for you looking back on your journey, all the sacrifices you had to make to build what you've built now?
Yeah, I don't, yeah, I'm not even wired that way. I mean, that's like asking a dolphin why he lives in water. And he's just like, well, I don't know. It's easy to swim. I don't look at it that way. Right? Nothing up until this point was like, uh, oh man, I regret that, or was it worth it, or why did I do this? I'm so programmed on what's next. What can I do today and tomorrow? I literally give like not even a grain of salt of thinking back to like this journey or this like, what did I do right or wrong? Of course, we all reflect and think about things, but generally speaking, it is a short window for me. Um, was it worth it? Yeah, I mean, it's my path. It's my journey. I don't want anybody else to have that one. That one was mine. I mean, you got Under Armour, you got kids, you got loved ones. I mean, yeah, I guess it was all worth it. It was all mine. It was all my journey. And some of it was ugly and some of it was pretty.
Well, and you speak of the ugly stuff and just people, I think the biggest mistake people make is they get caught up in the victim mindset. And when something unfortunate happens to them or life doesn't go the way they thought, they just sulk for like months.
Oh, it could be years. I mean, here's like the honest truth of like the ugly part of it. Playing the victim, it's really impossible not to for all of us. At some point in time, we've all played it, whether it was little, whether it was big. I mean, I played it, and when you're playing the victim, you actually don't know you're in the role. You don't know. When I was like playing this victim mentality and all this shit was happening to me, and why this and why that, you really don't have the self-awareness until later. You're like, holy shit, man, I was just perpetuating this victim mentality. So the dangerous part about being a victim is they never think they're a victim during it. And it's almost insanity to talk to people or talk to yourself during those moments because you can't convince them. So it's like, you got to have a good way to like reset and remove yourself so you can constantly relook at what you're doing. And that's hard, but that victim thing is dangerous. And I've been stuck in it too.
And so you said you're just wired differently where, you just are like, all right, on to the next thing. Something bad happens. Like, I can't think about the past, move on. Do you think that's what like separated you from being able to continue to like think of new ideas and stuff, even when like Under Armour like fell from the top, if you will, that you were just like, all right, I can't harp on this. I just got to figure out the next solution for my next problem.
Yeah. I mean, I think a little bit of my gift is I'm dyslexic and attention deficit, and my son has it as well. And it's like, there's a thing called object permanence. And that's when, if it's not in front of you, you don't think about it. So like, I bought a new snowboard years back. I surf, I snowboard, I ski. I kind of love the board sports. I don't skate, but I bought a snowboard. I stuck it in this like cool new rack I had in my garage and I put it there. Dude, I didn't snowboard for like 5 years. I forgot I had it because I couldn't see it. So if it's not in front of me, object permanence. So there's a little bit of brilliance in that because you're not sitting there looking backwards. You're not thinking about all these things you coulda, woulda, shoulda. You're actually just trying to attack the thing in front of you. And I'm hard to deal with. People complain to me about problems and immediately I get irritated with them. I do not like venting or emotional sharing. And it's like, why are we thinking about something we can't control? You literally cannot control it. The weather thing. Oh man, it's just shit. I've said it before, so I'm not immune to it. It's a bad weather day. It's going to be rainy. It's like you're literally thinking about something you can't control. Or, something happens in business or your personal life that was perpetrated by something totally out of your control. And then you sit there and complain about it. I think, but there's all these other things that are in your control that you could be spending mental energy on, but you're not. That drives me nuts. You know what I'm saying? Like, why are we even talking about this? We have these 30 things we can control. Let's go get it. There's a bunch of stuff we can't, and we're sitting here talking about it. Now, of course, you got to problem solve and you got to strategize, but I think you get my point. So, yeah, I just attack what's in front of me, man. I know it's a little bit of a gift and a curse.
And how does that like interact with you parenting like your kids who probably need some like emotional support at times, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, it sucks. I'm hard as shit on them. And we'll see how that turns out. Um, they're well rounded. They're good kids, but I think I've learned to slow down for them. That is the number one thing my kids have taught me because I am 110 miles an hour. They're not. They're not programmed like that. They may need other things and they need me to show up on the field that they're on, not me constantly trying to get them to the field I'm on. I have to, it's not sinking below me. I don't look at it. Sometimes you have to, people sink below you like to help someone. I don't really do that. But when it comes to kids in early development, they're just in a different place. And so I have to slow down and go to that place so I can connect with them. Connecting with people is hard. I actually connect with kids better than I do with adults.
You made a post on Instagram, I think it was back in May, but it said, something to the effect of, "It took this long to find myself, and I'm so glad that I did," or something.
Yeah. So I had like a ray of light, a beam of warmth, a change in perspective of who I am and what I can do for the first time in my life. No Under Armour success, no professional lacrosse success, no sports success. Nothing had led me to feeling good about myself until I was standing at my own lodge in Alaska, watching some bush planes take off. And I sat there and this like moment of sunshine was like, this is me and this is cool. And I'm so happy I figured out how to become me. And I have never felt that way in my entire life, ever.
And did something spark that before, or was it just like it just randomly happened? Like, did you go out there to kinda, like, do some soul
No,
searching? No?
I was just randomly out there. I was packing some guy's stuff up in a plane. I was help carrying some clients' luggage. I was moving tools around, and then I just gave it a moment to watch the planes take off and like the pseudo religious experience. I think I had been playing for other people for a long time. And I was like, oh, now I'm playing for myself. It was wild. Almost embarrassed that I'm 52 years old and felt that way. And I spent, 21 plus years at a brand like Under Armour, and none of it gave me any type of uh, like deep satisfaction.
I mean, knowing what I know about you and your story, it kind of makes a little bit of sense because you've mentioned obviously like the grind of building something like UA is just like none other, right? But also the fact that with your ADHD, you're like addicted to dopamine and like you have to just keep going and you don't really take time to slow down. So I imagine there's a point where you just like you're forced somehow to come to a halt and your brain is like, dude, like just chill. And then you and then you kinda, like, are able to, like, "Oh, this is what life is supposed to be like." It's not doesn't have to be like this go, 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 go all the time. I mean, I'm a former drug addict, so I can relate a little bit to that, of the
Yeah,
mentality.
same thing, right? It's a drug. It's dopamine it's real. I think you nailed it. I think you said it well, and as you say it, I can like feel it. Like it's a rat race that very few people understand. I can connect with some people that understand it, and it sounds like you do. But like the feverish tempo in which my brain is constantly scanning and developing and going, it's relentless and it's really difficult for people around me. Like very difficult. And it's difficult for myself too. And it's made me, it's made me who I am, but it's also like caused a lot of trauma and damage. And then it also has got this brilliance to it that I try to embrace. So when you say it, uh, yeah, no, I appreciate it. It, it's hard sometimes.
It's that back against the wall mentality where you're so used to having your back against the wall and having to just fight, 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 and build, build, build that it's like your greatest gift. But it's also like, especially I think in personal relationships, it's tough because personal relationships and business are just two different things, right? You just can't push, 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 push. And I think it just takes a toll on you. I mean, I know it did for me at some point, but I imagine that unless somebody has built what you've built, it's hard to understand going from building something in somebody's like basement or whatever to scaling it to the way that you did. And then doing it for so long that your brain just rewired itself to just be to accept that as being normal.
I mean, we had a great team, and by no means would I sit here and take any credit for all the things that Under Armour did. There were so many amazing people, but my tempo was, yeah, it was religious. Kevin Plank, his tempo is religious. It's just it's like it's feverish and it's hard. It's really, really hard for people to be around sometimes. Um, I used to hate when people ask me questions at work, like, "What did you do this weekend?" Like, I don't think maybe 10 times I've engaged. I was there 21 years. I don't think 10 times I engaged in a deep conversation with someone about what they did on a weekend. Like, why are we fucking talking about this? Why are you wasting my goddamn time about your stupid weekend? Are you kidding me? We got Dick's Sporting Goods. They're not buying enough. We have inventory issues. We got new products. We got innovation. Why are we spending one goddamn second on your weekend? And, yeah, I don't know if a lot of people like me for it. It was just hard. I just was like, we're here to work. So I think your back against the wall analogy is a pretty good one. Yeah, I was never worried about being liked. I think I had a performance review with a woman one time, Edith Matthews, who was a great employee of ours. She worked for me many years. I thought she liked me, and she gave me this like super negative feedback on this 360 review, and I was like, "Holy!" I thought Edith liked me. I was tough. She did not like a damn thing about me. Isn't that funny?
That's hilarious. Yeah, and it's the back against the wall mentality, man. It's like, I mean, I struggle with it, I guess, probably on a smaller level, but I started where I started when I was behind bars on felony drug charges, and that's where I got into fitness, and that inevitably saved my life. But I was so used to being like, all right, like if I don't push forward, does that mean I'm going to go back to being a convicted felon? Does that mean I'm going to go back to selling drugs and doing what I was doing when I was younger?
Yeah, 100%. That's what it means. What happened in childhood? What happened in childhood that gave you the answer that was appropriate? Where in your programming did that right or wrong get switched? Because I've spent, I've been in the paddy wagon, I've been in the jail cell, I didn't have felony charges, but I understand what it's like to be incarcerated. It's a horrible feeling. What was that? Where was that switch missing? I'm curious because that childhood development goes back to your earlier question.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it was a compounding of bad decisions over time that started with my inability to deal with adversity as a kid. And the adversity for me was my parents split when I was around 5 years old, high conflict divorce, so to speak. And then bullied a lot in school, picked on, started to get fat when I was a kid. And then I loved sports. Like I was the guy who stayed up late to watch Sports Center and woke up early to watch the new, Sports Center. And yet I still like wasn't being picked for the teams. And I started to develop this mentality of like, I'm a loser. I'm a failure as a guy. Right. And so I started to self-medicate when I was a teenager with weed. And that like that switched things for me. It was like, oh, I need a
Early
substance.
childhood development in the infusion of THC, your brain wasn't done developing and you were pushing something as a depressant or a stimulant, because there's a chemical that your brain secretes to help you make those decisions, and it happens somewhere between like 18 and 21. And if anything gets in the way of that, it literally messes with our right and wrong. It's wild. And some people never recover from it.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and it's THC can be very detrimental, especially for kids when they use it early on. And then that led to me selling it, snorting a bunch of coke, dealing with crippling anxiety, and then I actually was addicted to OxyContin, where I was snorting like 400 or 500 milligrams of oxy up my nose every day. Which then, being a drug addict, not being able to make good life decisions, selling a bunch of weed, I got busted with a bunch of pot and money back in '08, and then went to jail. And when I was in jail, like I didn't want to change. I was like, oh, I'm convinced my life is going to be over. I'm 21 years old. I'm a complete failure in every way possible. But my cellmate was like, dude, like, quit being a victim and feeling sorry for yourself. Let's work out. And I started with not being able to do a push up for my knees to being able to do a set of 10 by the time I left my 90-day
There you
sentence.
go. Little steps.
Yeah, man, it changed my life. But I mean, I think that's given me a lot of self-reflection, but it's also like I'm wired similarly to you, where when I'm coaching somebody, if I'm training somebody, if they give me a bunch of excuses, I have a hard time with it. Even though like I'm not wrapped, like the Goggins mentality is like, I think I relate a lot to that. There's a lot of people that don't relate to what he has to say, and that's okay. But I kind of struggle with that too, where
Yeah. It's like, how do you connect with people that are necessarily they're not motivated by the same discussion in the head that you're having? You're like, shut the fuck up, do one more set, let's go. And they're like, they need maybe something of encouragement, or they need you to give them a compliment, or, hey, you did really well on the last one. And you're really saying, shut up and do one more. It's hard to connect. And I think we self-select to people that are like us because they're easier to connect with.
yeah, it's like I think I heard Cam say on Modern Wisdom this a few weeks ago when he was on it, that he's more driven by, I think it was either, I think, by hate than love or something like that. And I totally clicked with that. Like when somebody like I know doubts me or I have a hater, it's like, oh man, game on. Like I'm gonna go like 0 to 100. But when someone's like, yeah, you're doing a good job, and I think that's how you're wired too, right? Like it seems like.
Yeah, I'm not really, people, Instagram aside, because you're kind of out there putting yourself out, and in some ways you're looking for feedback. So it's like a validator. But I'm generally highly self-motivated for myself. I don't need haters. I don't need love. I don't need, I don't need any. Cam likes it. I don't. I'm not a big fan of people hating on my page. If someone hates on my page, I block them. I'm like, yeah, cool. You say something rude, I block you. Kim loves it. He reads it and he like gets fired up about it. He wants to prove him wrong. I actually don't care. I don't have no interest in what people think of me. I'm trying to figure out why I think poorly of myself. Hence the beam of light at 52 years old, feeling like I finally accomplished something.
You brought up like the Dick's inventory story with UA, and I've also heard you say that you really like a lot of Under Armour when you were there. You saw it like as negative. You're always trying to fix things. Like I personally have my own, as a consumer, my view of where I think Under Armour kind of went wrong. Like, what is, looking back now, like where do you think Under Armour dropped the ball as far as like being like at the top to kind of taking that fall?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just some natural math that people don't understand. Cause I think when people look at Under Armour and maybe they, cause it's a publicly traded company and the stock is not nearly what it used to be. And maybe people lost money on it. And then so now they're like, oh, well, they're not doing good. Well, they were never, Under Armour was never the size of Nike, Reebok, or Adidas or Puma. Like, I don't know, they're like $60 billion at Nike and they produce X amount of profit. And so you're being compared to someone who's so much bigger than you. And I think that comparison externally is a problem and internal because Under Armour tries to go and be a big brand constantly, and they don't have the checkbook for it. How many regions they're in, how many products they're in, how many colleges they sponsor, how many athletes they sponsor, how much they, whatever, how many employees they have, their processes. I think the thing that people need to realize, and then I think Under Armour needs to realize, is you don't need to be these other brands. Just be you. And that might be a smaller version of Nike. You're not really competing with Nike. You're competing with yourself. So I think maybe hindsight 2020 would be is tried to be too much to too many people, tried to be everything, and then ended up not being something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, as a consumer and somebody who lived in the area and I, did a little bit of work with you guys back in the day, I was like, man, I loved like the cold gear, the heat gear, like early days when you were playing lacrosse or playing a sport and you had the UA, it meant something. It was like a brand recognition thing. And then when I think you bought My Run, then you got into like My Fitness, like all these other things and the shoes, I was like, man, like they're over diversifying and then you saw, like you said, like the checkbook couldn't match them, competing with Nike, Reebok, Adidas, etc.
And I think Nike and those people baited us into a war because they want you to enter a war of resources. And I'm sure they went to our number one competitor or our number one distribution partner, Dick's Sporting Goods, and they wrote them huge checks to get things done that we couldn't do. So yeah, I mean, I think we overdeveloped the product line and the positioning, and it lost its meaning a little bit. But I think they're doing amazing, and there's actually some interesting things coming along with there. I don't think they're going anywhere. I just think it's a retooling, reinvestment, and get back to the basics.
Yeah, I mean, UA, I will always have a special place in my heart, given me growing up here and just seeing what was built. And, I had mad respect for the innovation too. Like you guys were ahead of the game with certain things. And, it was just been really cool to see the evolution, I guess, of the brand. But, what's really inspiring to me from you is, I've interviewed a lot of people on the show and talked to a lot of people, and failure wrecks people. And the humility you have and your ability to like just switch and not let it like destroy you is really, I think, something that people need to hear. Like, what is your message to people that harp on failure so much? Like, you're somebody that if what had happened to you with Under Armour had happened to a lot of people, they would have like wrecked their professional careers forever. They would have just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the root of that, you think you're really important and you're so special that your failure is being projected to the world and everybody is looking at it. So if you pull back the sheets, it's your ego is so fucking sensitive because you think you're so amazing. Then that means failure is bad because like, look. And so the significance that you place on yourself is so high that you believe your failure is like earth changing to the world and other people around you, that you're going to commiserate about it forever. I think your ego is out of check. Just move on. You're not that important. Like, I mean, I'm 52. There's probably some startup kid at 19. He's going to make Under Armour look like easy. He's going to do it in 2 years. And it took us 20 years to do it. Like, oh no, do I look like a failure because we didn't do it in the same rate as some new kid that came along and did it? It's like, no one's thinking like that, Kip. Like, nobody's thinking like that. Like, why are you thinking like that? Like, your ego. It's your ego, man. People that harp on failure, their fucking egos are just way too sensitive.
Yeah. I saw an interesting tweet. I think it was yesterday or maybe it was Monday. It was like, when you're in your 20s, you care so much about what other people think. When you're in your 30s, you don't care what anybody thinks. When you're in your 40s, you realize nobody like cared about what you were doing. I just think it's really an interesting like evolution of how it works. I think it's true. Like you realize when you get older that no one cares about you. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think we all meet some young people that are insanely grounded and mature. But let's be honest, that's not the norm. Usually that comes with age and some battle scars, right? And so that life experience gives you this calming peace to be able to go through things. When you were younger, you went through those things and you thought the world was, and now you've been through like 10 of those things and you're sitting here in your 50s or 60s and you're like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. It's a little speed bump. So I think there is some young people out there that I've met that are very grounded and very stable. I think most of them are revved up and revved down, revved up and revved down because they're letting external events affect who they are versus just you just be who you are and ride the wave, man. Like it's going to crash. You just paddle back out and get another one. I've been surfing my whole life, and the surfing analogy to me is like the method and madness behind life. And it's just like not every wave is going to be the perfect wave. You're going to wreck on a few. There's going to be competition. At times, there's not even going to be any waves. You're just going to sit out there and learn to have to sit with nothing. It's just flat. And then there's times that there's this gorgeous, beautiful wave, and you're going to ride it, and it's going to be great. And then right when you think it's amazing, some dude drops in on you and f***s you up. It's just surfing is just the perfect analogy for life.
yeah, man. And another analogy I've heard with surfing is I had this guy, Dr. Nolan Williams, in the show, who's out of Stanford. And he does a lot with like mental health and stuff like that. And he was saying, we were talking about depression, and we were having like a open kind of conversation about whether or not like depression is a choice. And he's like, essentially what he was saying is like to get started down the path of depression, it's certainly, you can certainly do things that make your depression worse. But he asked me, he's like, you ever surf? I was like, no, I haven't. He's like, why surf? And he's like, think about when you surf, sometimes you get out in the ocean, you go through a small wave, you keep paddling, another small wave, and then all of a sudden you're just so far out at sea, you don't even know how to get back, And he's like, that's what happens sometimes with people who spiral down with these mental health issues, is that they're so far down the path, they're so lost at sea that they don't know how to get back to shore. And it really hit me because I was like, man, that is like life. Like the people who make all these bad choices over the course of time, and their brain is just rewired, and they don't know like what the hell to do because they completely changed who they are. Does that make sense?
No, it makes a ton of sense. I think that defeatist feeling of being so far away from shore that it's not even worth paddling back, that is a scary place to be. And I've been there. I'll just admit it. I've been there. I've been there. Like I'm so far away from who I want to be. Like, I don't know if it's worth paddling back. Like, I don't know if I have the energy. I don't know if I'll ever make it. And you feel defeated. And, I think for people that struggle with any type of depression or any type of mental struggle, it's like, you gotta focus on the small wins. You gotta focus on the little thing, like the little thing you can do now and not the big ocean that you can't paddle. Because if you sit there and stare at, you're like, yeah, you probably might not make it back. But like for now, I'm actually just gonna try to get to that next little wave in front of me. I don't even know if I'll ever get back. I'm just gonna try to go 5 yards. I've done it a few times, because you mentioned Goggins, but I've yet to hit his, there's a thing called a Versa climber. It's a machine.
Yeah. It's awesome.
I've a few times have done 10,000 feet on the Versa climber. He did Everest, which, is 20 plus thousand feet. I'm going to do it. I haven't done it yet. I come to find out later, he got off and on and took breaks. So maybe I'll have to try that because I definitely couldn't do it. I've done 10,000 without getting off. And the only way I could do it is I broke it down at the end, just go 10 more feet. I was at 6,000 feet and I had to get 4,000 more feet and I was done mentally and physically. And I just said, do 10 feet. And I did 10 feet over and over and over again until I got 4,000 more. So that analogy I think you shared is a really dangerous one, but I tell people to focus on just what's that 10 feet in front of you.
Well, and I think the problem is that people, when they start to see some success or some level of change, they sabotage it because they're like, because of impatience. And you see this a lot with people recovering from addiction whose brain is wired for instant gratification, that they just need to see these wins, and a big win, because they're like, well, shoot, I was getting so much gratification from putting a needle in my arm or snorting a 8 ball of coke a day or whatever it was, that like me, like going out and going to a meeting or going out and going for a run, like it hits, but not the same. Um, like how do you think people can prevent, just in general in life, from sabotaging early success when
I think
they're
a lot of that is the society we live in is consumerism, marketing society. And you have to shut out the noise and you have to fall in love with a process, not an outcome. When you fall in love with the outcome, I want a six pack. I want $1 million in the bank account. I want a hot girlfriend. Well, I want a huge business. I want to have the same feeling that I had when I was doing drugs. You literally have to give up the need for outcomes, and all you do is just like immerse yourself into an actual process. And I think the marketing and the consumerism we have in society today is about buy the next thing to give you your moment, buy, buy, buy. And it's programmed us to get instant gratification, or the Amazon effect, which is I buy something and it's in my house the next day. And you have to just abandon outcomes and you actually map what is the process that actually has a high likelihood that it could give me a good outcome, but I'm not going to focus on the outcome. I'm actually just going to focus on the reps. I'm going to fall in love with the reps. And that's real. I will say that is really powerful. It's very hard for people to do.
You've definitely shared some like brutally hard truths for people to hear so far in our combo. And when it comes to change, like what do you think is the brutal truth about why most people never change, even though they want to?
Brutal truth between why people change.
Why people to never change it, that even though they want to.
They're in the wrong environment. They're like, let's use this example. You got one spouse who wants to lose weight, and you got another spouse who's still drinking and eating and doesn't care. And that is like a tug of war inside the house every day. You see someone, you hear someone, you talk to someone who's literally doing the thing that you don't want to do anymore. And so you have to shut that out and you have to go become fit and furious about your lifestyle. And you may be significantly out of weight. You might be older, but that environment that you're in is just not conducive. Literally, you could probably live in an apartment, get divorced, get a job at a health and fitness store, and you'd probably get your life healthier and better than sticking with someone who's toxic around you all the time. Because that's just, and that's a really raw and horrible experience. It's, oh, Kip's telling you should go through divorce just because one person's fit and one person's not. And I'm like, yeah, actually, yeah, that's what I said. That person, like, move on. That's not good for you. If that's what you want to be. Like, how are you going to stay in that environment? You're never going to win. So the brutal about change is take a hard look at your environment. Who are your friends? Who are your coworkers? What church do you go to? What rehab do you go to? What therapist do you go to? What gym do you go to? Where do you park your goddamn car? Are you always pissed that you didn't get the spot right up front and you're just mad at other drivers because you wanted the closest spot? Park in the back and walk and shut up. Like, that's the mental thing I have in my head all the time. Like, shut up, Kip. So change your environment. I think change happens fast. Stay in the same environment, complain about your socks being wet. We'll get out of the water, man.
Speaking of environment, you talked about like when you were at UA, like you didn't want to hear about people's weekend, and you mentioned that you've been difficult to be around. Your words, not mine. And you also had this ray of light experience, like a few weeks ago. Back in May. Like, how would people describe you, like before that, and what have people said like since you've kind of found yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time around people anymore. So I don't have a group of people that are just beaming with, oh my God, Kip, you're so different. Uh, I don't have that. I don't know where that voice came from, but I imagine it was someone I previously worked with. I think if they did work with me, I think there was some sort of grounded respect that I was trying to do the right thing. I may have gone about it the wrong way. I may have stepped on some toes. I think today, um, when I'm working on things I love, yeah, I just inherently treat people better. I'm just more tolerant, more accepting, uh, more grounded to listen. Uh, I get really frustrated really quickly when I see people acting kind of counterintuitive. I just don't have, I just don't have a filter. Just, I'm going to punch you right in the face if I see you doing something that is clearly wrong.
And then how do you like ground yourself to not do that?
I don't. I haven't figured it out yet. I think the trick for me is manual labor, workouts, and being in nature. If I put those three things together, I'm a really different person. I mean, I was just doing I moved a bunch of stone and redid some sand, and I'm building my son a little turf area. And it's been a ball buster, like just the amount of work I've had to do to get this thing ready. And I love it. It's just using my body and like getting a workout, even though it's not a workout. I think that's the magic for me. I'm not an office person.
What role has fitness played in your life?
I mean, I view myself as an athlete and an artist. That's kind of when I look in the mirror, those are the things I see. I see a highly creative brain, and I see someone who has the competition of an athlete. And so training to me is the bridge between those two worlds, that I can't be as creative as I want and I can't be athletic as I want if I'm not trained.
People have a hard time reinventing themselves, like after change. I know your identity was wrapped up in Under Armour when you were there. Like, do you think you just moving on to the next thing and that mentality served you well in your ability to like reinvent who Kip was post UA?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a reinvention. I think that my change has happened slowly. I don't think it was overnight. And I think that I slowly found what was the right environment that I needed to be in. But I will totally admit and that I left Under Armour and I jumped back into a lot of environments that mirrored Under Armour. I was trying to replace it, and it wasn't really good. It wasn't really that successful, and I think that I just stopped trying to recreate that after a period of time. So I'm not big into these like, oh, he's a new person or life-changing events. Like, I'm sure it happens for some people, but usually it's death of a thousand cuts. And I think for me, it happens slowly. And over time, I found that, yeah, I don't need to do that anymore. I need to do this other thing that seems to serve me better. I wish I would learn faster. But I think as we get older, we just maybe change a little bit slower.
What do you think people get wrong when it comes to motivation?
Motivation is a wacky thing. I really don't care about motivation. I think the underpinning is some sort of self-belief, the, the discipline to do you don't want to do, which is very unmotivating. It's almost depressing to sit around and think about all the you have to do that you don't want to do. It's not motivating. A motivating comes when you hear a song or like you see something amazing or a video that really inspires you. And if you're waiting for those moments constantly, they're just episodic. They're not, you can't reproduce them all the time. So I think I search out like these little ideas of, I guess a take from Jocko's world is like the discipline is probably more important than the motivation.
Yeah, because I mean, I think like motivation kind of helps when you're like excited about something, but eventually that excitement wears off and it's like, well, you're on to the next thing. And that's why I think so many people have problems achieving things is because they're just on to the next thing without like seeing things through.
Yeah. And so commitment and discipline seem to go together, right? Like I'm committed, I have discipline. I'm very disciplined, so I'm committed. So if you have a long-term goal, I'm a big long-term thinker. I like to think strategy. If you have a long-term goal, you can achieve it if you have discipline and you're committed to do the baby steps to get to it. If you don't have the baby steps and commitment, and you're just going to wait for the motivation, and you're going to look at the shiny new object all the time, man, that long-term future goal is going to be out of reach a lot. And it's funny because I have some long-term goals and I'm like approaching some of them and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm on track. Like I'm going to be 55. I'm 3 years away from being 55. I'm like, I had some things in my head that I wanted to do and have lined up. And I'm like, yeah, I'm right there. But it's all that dirty work you did for years, you know? So I have it all figured out. I could sit here and talk about this all day long because it's interesting to me. Um, how do you wake up and actually apply it is really hard for people.
Yeah, I had Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, on the podcast, and I asked him. I said, how do people like actually execute on an idea that they have?" And he shared something to the effect of it's being able to separate signal from noise. He's like, somebody like Elon Musk is 100% like signal and like doesn't care about anything else other than what he's doing, right? And he's like, you have to find your like in between of like there's noise in the world and then there's signal to what you have to do to achieve that goal. And he's like, most people are not cut out to be entrepreneurs because they're of their inability like to manage that.
Shut out the noise.
I mean, do you relate to that?
100%. Yeah, and at times when I'm really successful, I shut the noise out. And other times when I'm not, I could see that the noise affects me. So I think it's a great analogy. I think noise is also a correlation to your environment and that they could go hand in hand, right? Like the noise that comes from your environment. I said something to KP one time in a strategy meeting, and I think many, many years later, he took it as his own. But I said, when it's quiet, you can hear really, really well.
It's true, right?
Yeah. It's shut out the noise.
What are your long-term goals?
Health and fitness is right there. Like, can Savage stay in shape, climb mountains until I'm almost next to my deathbed? So I would say fitness. I'd say fitness and my kids are probably one and one. Long-term goals, build 2 amazing men from boys. That's it. I have a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old, but that is a super committed, disciplined job that is inherently fraught with risk. And I'm in it to win it. And I'm not going to give up. I think that long-term goal, people would be like, oh, you're going to be a dad. I'm like, yeah, Yeah, I'm gonna be that, but I'm gonna try my goddamn best to be the best goddamn dad I can be to shape these boys into men. Um, you know, I think another long-term goal for me is to remove myself from day-to-day decisions of business. And that is a long-term goal I've had for a while now. And I'm kind of starting to like move that direction. I don't want to do business anymore. Like, I'm going to put people in place to run my businesses, and maybe they can keep me abreast of what's going on, but it's not me running them. So those are kind of three goals that are really front and center: my boys, my fitness, and how do I not be the decision maker in business?
Love it. Well, Kip, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for your time, for coming on the podcast. If people want to connect with you or learn more about what you're doing, where's the best place to do that?
Just follow me on 13 Pacific Ways on Instagram. And before we go, like, your story is really impressive to me, and that you're doing this is really cool. Your questions were dialed. I can see why this has gone so well for you. And I like having good conversations with smart people. And this is definitely one of them, man. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate the kind words. It means a lot.
Yeah, man. Rock and roll. Let's kick